Hey everybody, Rudy here. Jokes from my shed, part two. I think I had to come out to my car. My shed's not ready yet, but I don't know if you caught it on the last video. I had to leave in a hurry, because Sarah was coming in, and not that I was doing anything bad. I was just recording myself, film a video on my iPhone, but why do people do that? Why do we get all scared? Or is it just me? Am I like just paranoid because I've done so much stuff that when I'm sitting there recording a video and someone comes in, I want to just shut it off all quick. Anyways, jokes from my shed part two. I'm in my car because I don't want to be in my house because other people are in there. And George Carlin was the other comedian that I wanted to mention. Yeah, always loved comedy, always loved getting into it. As a very young age, I used to be able to tell stories. Like, I could tell you a story about anything if you want to know how barbecue got invented, because this is a shirt from barbecue, where they got me. Actually, barbecue's been around for since 3000 BC, and the way it started was when they first had fire. They were chasing, it wasn't like a saber-tooth, not a saber-tooth tiger, but more of like a saber-tooth type elk, if that makes sense. So picture like a moose, but instead of like the big this stuff, picture like like a Texas Longhorn moose, but with big old teeth. It was called the Sabertooth Moose, and you can still find the fossils. It was indigenous to what's now is Australia. At that time, it was called Pangea. I don't know if you're familiar with your geography or how continents move back and forth. I think Australia is due to be back around in about 20 or 30 years or so. So it'll be a lot shorter flight in the near future. But anyway, so they had fire going and they were chasing this saber-tooth moose over a cliff. And the goal was, at that time, they didn't have the best instruments like spears and crossbows and nunchucks and whatnot to actually kill and hunt the animals, which was unfortunate because they could have killed more animals than they actually did. But what they did have was gravity. And so the idea was someone would be, down below, and there'd be a cliff up high, and they would chase these animals. And they would chase them, and they would chase them, and they'd corner them and put their backs against a ledge, if you will. And down below was the fellow caveman who had the fire going to stay warm, for one, two, for light, because they did it at nighttime. I don't know if I mentioned that. They did it at nighttime because animals have very good eyesight, and this way they had less chance of seeing the cliff. Okay, so they chased him at night, and they'd push him down. Now, this time, the fire was set a little bit too close to the cliff, right? So it was set too close to the cliff, and what actually happened is they chased the saber-tooth moose over the cliff, and it fell. It was probably about 25 feet or so, but because the fire and the caveman was too close, because he was moving the coals, he was making sure the fire was staying hot so they could cook the saber-tooth moose, it fell on top of the guy and it killed him. So when it did that, it also kind of put out the flame. So you're left without a flame. All you have is these smoldering coals that are slowly smoking up these fumes, and it wasn't mesquite, it was eucalyptus barbecue. So eucalyptus gives it a very earthy yet clean flavor. Actually tastes pretty disgusting. You wouldn't want to eat it, but back then it was really good. So it took the guys, because they were on this cliff, it took them, the other cave guys, at least 4 or 5 hours, because they were on this cliff. It was dark, it was really hard to see. They couldn't just come down. They had to navigate their way back around, and at this time they don't even know their buddy's dead, but he's dead. So they had to come back down around, and finally they figure out and they see, oh my gosh, we killed our guy on accident, but he's still dead. But this moose has been here smoking. It's still hot, it's still warm, but there's no flames. But what they did notice was it was getting cooked, but it was getting cooked at a much slower temperature. And they kind of realized that they didn't have watches, they didn't have the sundial because it was nighttime, but they kind of guesstimated 4 to 6 hours from when the time they pushed him over and it fell on the barbecue pit till they climbed down. And they said, whoa, whoa, let's taste this. And so they cut it open, and the skin actually helped seal in the moisture. And so what ended up happening was the smoke seeped through the heat and it cooked it. It sealed the moisture, almost like the bark of a brisket. And they cut open and they tasted it and like, oh my gosh, this is delicious. This is amazing Sabertooth moose. Like, we figured it out. We struck gold here. And that's actually how barbecue got started, was 3000 BC in Australia with a Sabertooth moose.